Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ted Rall. You are watching the TMI Show, filling in for Manila Chan, who's, I don't know, what are we going to say she's doing? Whale hunting, I'm going to say. I'm filling in for her is Robby West and the other one, a.k.a. Putinbot Gaming. Thank you very much for joining today. Manila should be back tomorrow after she ends up processing those big baleen creatures. You want to watch out because they can explode. People may not know that, but that can happen. Anyway, you're watching the TMI Show, otherwise known as the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, where we bring you too much information. Everything from news, politics, lifestyle, culture, everything that you can think of. We'll give you all the normal warnings. I'm not going to warn you the way Manila does because, people don't really deserve warnings. Sometimes the news just sort of happens to you. And the TMI Show just happens to you. We're here live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. on the Pacific Coast. Be sure to like and follow the show. That's really what helps the monetization take root. We have early primitive pre-monetization. A few pennies are rolling in, like literally. Well, some nickels too. But, if we want to turn them into dimes and quarters, we need the watch hours, we need the likes, we need the follows. Yep. So thank you for doing all that. And all right, so let me see. So what I don't have is the Jaws. I guess, should we just go ahead and break into the news, Robby? Or do you have anything?
100%. We should just go right on into it. Now, we can't use the Jaws because we'd be accused of cultural appropriation, racism, misogyny. So
transphobia.
Well, I'll wear that
baleen phobia, fear of whales. Yeah.
So let's just jump on into it.
Phobia, fear of toads, which is one of the most nefarious forms of phobia. Anyway, a suspect is in custody after allegedly shooting dead 2 Israeli embassy staffers outside a Jewish museum last night. The gunman's been identified by Metropolitan in D.C. as Elias Rodriguez. He's 30 years old. He's a Chicago native. Allegedly, he approached a group of 4 people who were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum, sponsored by the American Jewish Congress, and opened fire, killing Yaron, Lischinsky, and Sarah Milgrim. Metro Police Chief Pamela says the shooter had been pacing outside the museum, which is steps away from the FBI field office there in Washington, before this incident. After killing the 2, who officials say were actually a romantically involved couple who, by some accounts, were planning to be engaged soon, he walked inside, where event security then took him into custody. At that point, the suspect allegedly yelled, "Free, free Palestine," after he was arrested. The 2 victims were both Israeli embassy employees. The Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Yechiel Leiter, told reporters that the 2 had been in that relationship and that Lischinsky had purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem. He was a research assistant. She organized visits and missions to Israel. A former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Mike Herzog, told Israeli Army radio that Milgrim was an American employee. Donald Trump condemned the killings on Truth Social. These horrible D.C. killings, based obviously on anti-Semitism, he said, I'm not so sure about that, must end now. Hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA. Hilarious coming from him. Condolences to the families of the victims. So sad that such things as this can happen. God bless you all. The Israeli Foreign Minister, Gideon Sa'ar, said there's a direct line connecting anti-Semitic and anti-Israel incitement to this murder, Sa'ar said. Well, okay, I'd like to see that direct line. This incitement is also done by leaders and officials of many countries and international organizations, especially from Europe. I was worried that something like this would happen, and it did. Netanyahu said his heart ached. Okay, first of all, that can't be true.
Doesn't have one.
Correct. For the families of the victims whose lives were cut short in a moment by an abhorrent anti-Semitic murderer. We are witnesses to the terrible cost of the anti-Semitism and wild incitement against the state of Israel. Blood libels against Israel have a cost in blood and must be fought to the utmost, he said next. For people who don't know what blood libel is, I don't know that Netanyahu knows what it is. It's a medieval slur against Jews that said that they liked to eat babies that were non-Jewish. So I don't know where baby eating comes into play here. The Israeli president is Isaac Herzog said that he was devastated by the scenes in Washington. He said this is a despicable act of hatred of anti-Semitism, which has claimed the lives of 2 young employees of the Israeli embassy. Our hearts are with the loved ones of those murdered, and our immediate prayers are with the injured. I send my full support to the ambassador and all the embassy staff. Just a few days ago, Robby, the New York Times published a piece about Project Esther. I don't know if you had a chance to see that or if you've heard of Project Esther. But
I have not. I have been slacking with my producer duties with other things. So
yeah, you have not been idle, that's for sure. You have many, many things to do. So Project Esther was drafted, basically it's a plan drafted by the same people who brought us Project 2025. And it doesn't really, it's meant to sound really novel, but basically it boils down to a plan to smear people who promote the rights of the Palestinian people and who are upset with the killings in Gaza and the West Bank as anti-Semitic. And, this doesn't seem anything new. This is like an old, like really tired shtick that goes back for decades. And anybody who's tried to criticize Israel, has been the victim of it. They know this is automatically what happens. But basically this sort of sets it out. Like, we're going to destroy the pro-Palestinian movement. We're going to, and the way we're going to do that is by tarnishing them all as anti-Semites. In the responses to this, both from the Trump administration, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and many others, as well as obviously the Israeli officials who I mentioned in the story, those people obviously are all tying they're conflating the two. Now the thing is, it may well turn out that this guy, who, if he is indeed the killer, he's a wild anti-Semite and has swastikas all over his body. That could all turn out to be true. Right now, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. And saying free Palestine and pulling out a keffiyeh, which allegedly he did here, does not make you anything other than pro-Palestinian. That's all it makes you. It might not even necessarily make you anti-Israel. It just makes you pro-Palestinian. Although in this context, being pro-Palestinian kind of makes you anti-Israeli because the Israelis are killing so many Palestinians. But but to say, just casually, well, this is obviously anti-Semitism. Okay, I always, the hairs on the back of my neck always go up in situations like this when people say, obviously. This just happened. The bodies are still warm. It was less than 24 hours ago. There's no obviously about anything. I think, at this point, it would be nice to let the police conduct their investigation, find out what really happened.
Well, I think it's kind of like the Reverend Al Sharpton back in the day. He would always scream racism. It did not matter what the issue was. Like, remember back in the day when those lacrosse players were accused of raping the black stripper and stuff?
Yeah, the Duke lacrosse team.
Yeah, so this is just the same thing. What this looks like to me is it's people who are intellectually either stupid or lazy. They can't make an argument to justify the genocide that they are waging. And so they are slinging the racism / anti-Semitism card because that's all that they have. And so they're not trying to win the argument using facts, using logic, using reason, or even honesty. They're just trying to shut you up by smashing that white guilt club. You shut up, Nazi, shut up, Nazi, shut up, Nazi. And it just doesn't work anymore.
It's cheap, and it always was cheap. I have sensed, and maybe mistakenly, but I've sensed that there's a general, I think, a fatigue among the American people, among voters, for this shtick, and I don't know that it's working anymore. I mean, obviously, this gives great ammunition to supporters of Israel to say, look at what happened here, but objectively, what we really know is a guy walked up to an event held by a Zionist organization and killed 2 attendees. That's what we really know. And we know that he urged the liberation of Palestine. That's what we know. So there's no, I think most people can sort of assess it for what it is. And just to be clear here, it ain't right. right? Like
No.
I really, like if you're in a resistance organization, if you favor the emancipation of the Palestinians, it's one thing to say whack a high-ranking general in the IDF. That's like an act of resistance. Okay,
Sure.
that's a legitimate, I think, form of self-defense. I don't think killing concert goers at a rave is legitimate act of resistance. I don't think that killing two low-level embassy staffers, although probably no one should work for the state of Israel, for their government, I would say. I mean, it's one thing to live in Israel. It's another thing to be a government employee of such a genocidal regime. But they're low level, and it's right. Sort of like during World War II, most members of, say, the French resistance and the other anti-Nazi resistance organizations tried to avoid killing low-level operatives like that. Even at the end of the war, my grandfather talked about how they sometimes drove Wehrmacht soldiers to the train station and put them on the train, help them with their bags, said, good luck, hope everything works out for you. It wasn't personal with them.
They like, want to be there.
General, it's like boom.
No, of course. I mean, it's just and the split MAGA world from which I am a part of. I mean, you can see it. The pro-Zionist Laura Loomer, Donald Trump, MAGA Zionist types versus everybody else. And I mean, right. You can see it in live and in color on Twitter right now this morning. And I got into it with some MAGA guy, some Trumper. He's like, well, I suppose that you support what these people did. No, talking to me. Yeah, it's like, no, you should just be thankful that that the police did not use the Israeli option and drop a bomb on the museum when they're going after the shooter and killing everyone in the museum just to get the shooter. So there is a little bit of a difference there, because that's the justification that Israel uses. Well, there's 300 people in this apartment building, but there's one bad guy. So if we're going to take out the entire freaking building, this is the same thing. You have one bad guy inside the museum. So if you use the Israeli model, you'd be perfectly justified just to drop a bomb on the museum, just send them all to meet Jesus and settle it.
Yeah, but it's like the old cartoon where the guy's using the shotgun to try to kill the fly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I really want to get into this. So I don't want to back table that. Let's get into this MAGA thing. And then I want to talk a little bit about the personalization, the psychological response to something like this, where you just inherently, you see the faces of the two victims. They're both young, attractive, appealing. And you can't help but, like, as an American, like, be able to relate to people like that. I know people like that. I've been friends with people who look just like that. And then it's like, it makes me self-interrogate, why I care so much about that, but it's harder to personalize the deaths of over 200,000 people in Gaza, some of whom dress a little different than we do and look a little different, not that much different, really. But I do want to talk about this split in MAGA world. So you can shed some light on this, Robby. I mean, I don't understand, first of all, how much of MAGA world is impacted by this supposed, like, Christians wanting to bring up, evangelists wanting to bring about the end times, and Israel plays some role in that. Is that real? And how real is it? And how much of it is? And then what is the motivation of someone like Donald Trump or his allies for being so up Israel's ass? I mean, what does he get out of it? Besides donations, I mean, both parties get donations from AIPAC. Both parties, Joe Biden was completely in the thrall of Israel. What is it though that some people in MAGA world, why are they so drawn to Israel and why are others not? And then how does that split get resolved, or can it?
So there's a lot there, and I'll try to unpack as good as I can. No, you're good, because all the things that you're talking about is in my world. Like, I'm a fundamentalist Baptist. I mean, I'm creationist, everything else. Like, I am that crazy religious guy that
perfect.
Say,
no, seriously.
Perfect. No, please don't talk about the religion at Thanksgiving. That's me. So in regards to dispensationalism, which is what it is that you're talking about Israel, that the third temple has to be rebuilt and Israel has to be there for Jesus to come back. That comes from Darbyism and the Schofield Reference Bible. And I will look to see if I can find someone who's an expert on that. But I can give you a high level thing.
Which religious sects or belief systems most adhere to that?
Your independent fundamentalist Baptists and your typical evangelical type.
But so this is pretty mainstream, or
not anymore. It's dying out. That's more along with the lines of the boomers, younger Christians like me and who are younger. Because if you go through and if you read the Bible, especially if you read the writings of Paul, you find that if there was ever an anti-Semite in the Bible, it was the Apostle Paul, which is ironic because he was of the tribe of Benjamin and a Pharisee. I mean, he just the church has replaced Israel. We don't need Israel. Israel is actually an enemy of the church, according to the Gospels. But dispensationalism, though, teaches that Israel had to be reformed and the third temple had to be rebuilt for Jesus to come back. And if you look into the funding of it,
I was going to say, I've read the Bible a lot, not as much as you, I'm sure, but still a lot. Yeah. And I don't remember anything about that in the Bible
It's because the Bible doesn't say it. So what Schofield did is that he put all of his footnotes at the bottom of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And then it was funded by the Rothschild family back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and sent to seminaries. And so that's how an entire generation or two of young preachers were trained in this false doctrine. And so, but now though, what's happening is the counterculture backlash has gone. Like the anti-woke is becoming more normal. So people are embracing Christianity, reading the Bible, wanting to discover who is this Jesus guy? What is this? And they're starting to see that everything they've been taught is complete bupkis. It's all crap. And so so the first answer to your question, it's still big with the boomers in the churches, but it's dying out. And I say, thank God, because we're starting to get back to actual real Christianity. Second, the reason why Trump is all up Israel's ass is because AIPAC will primary anyone that goes against the narrative. Once you get elected, you want to stay in office. The best way to stay in office is not be primaried. Like AIPAC has tried to take out Thomas Massey 2 or 3 times. They just can't. People of Kentucky love him. They're like, screw you, screw your money. We don't want you. We don't need you. And Thomas Massey represents my wing of MAGA. It's America first, not Israel instead. And so it is a huge, that's the split. So like you have the Laura Loomers and the Tim Pools, and the propped up establishment versus podcasters and stuff. Kim Iverson's a big one. Like, she's not even a righty, but I mean, she is, me and her on the same page when it comes to this stuff. It's, you have just a lot of people who just get online in front of a camera like what we're doing right now, and they're reaching thousands of people. And whenever that happens, you have the establishment types try to silence them, but every time they try to silence them, they can't. It's kind of like what's going on right now with Kanye West. The more you try to cut someone's tongue out, the stronger that they get. People are sick and tired of the censorship. And so people are starting to listen to what it is that you're saying that's so dangerous, because I want to hear what you have to say. And so that is why this right-wing populism is growing to the extent that it is. The censorship is backfiring. And I think that your pro-Israel people, they're going to try and push this narrative that if you're opposed to the genocide happening in Gaza, that you're racist, that you're anti-Semite, or that you can't be a Christian. Meanwhile, the most Christian thing that I can think of that you could possibly do is advocate for people who have no power of their own. I mean, there is nothing greater than that. No, Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." No, not the missiles, not the bombs. And that is that big split. How does supporting Israel's war, its genocide, how does that benefit the American people? It doesn't, not in any way, shape, or form. And that's the part that the official MAGA, I guess, that's the part that they're losing. And that's why you have so many people who are starting to listen, frankly, to people who I'd really rather that they not listen to, like Nick Fuentes. I think the guy's completely off the reservation. But people are going to continue going to listen to these people. The more that you try to censor them, the stronger that they're going to get. And I think what's going to end up happening, I hope to God that I'm wrong. I think that we are approaching a time where we are going to start seeing political violence on a scale we haven't seen since the 1850s. And I hope to God I'm wrong, but I think we're on that way.
I hope you're wrong too. I don't know if it'll go that far, but I definitely think we're going to see an increase. I mean, just last week, I wrote this piece, Zionism, How Zionism Causes Anti-Semitism. And I was kind of arguing and saying that, like, Jewish people who are pushing this anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism narrative, even against fellow Jews, like Jewish Voice for Peace, are playing a dangerous game. And because, Israel is a nation state. Sure. And what that's doing, and when you see, I mean, what is anti-Semitism, right? It's classically one of the defining aspects is this paranoia that Jews control the media, they control everything. They have like back channels. They're furtive, they're sneaky, they have connections that you and I don't know about, and that if you and I cross them, like, suddenly we can find ourselves out of work, broke, sleeping on the street, and we won't even know what hit us because the secret machinations are always working. Well,
all that is true, by the way. And I mean, look what happens.
Well, we can have that discussion, but my point is that, like, if you are, let's say you're a Turkish student at Tufts University, and you're walking down the street coming back from dinner, and suddenly masked goons in an unmarked car swoop in and grab you and try to deport you and hold you in prison and don't let you have access to your asthma inhaler and risk killing you. And you later find out that this happened because you co-authored an op-ed for the school paper, and that op-ed was against Israel. And it's the only thing that you did, quote unquote, wrong, even though there's nothing illegal about that whatsoever in this country. In fact, it's protected as hell, that you've always been peaceful. You've never done anything wrong. You're going to start to think, wow, there's secret machinations. I can be walking home from dinner, and just because I crossed these people, I mean, that could cause you, a person who was never anti-Semitic, to start to become anti-Semitic.
100%.
And I think that's really, and when you see that happening with other students, with the kid, there's been hundreds of students across the country whose only sin was that they protested the war in Gaza, they've been suspended, disciplined, expelled, subject to deportation proceedings, even having their diploma removed from them by, like, Columbia University, for example. So, I have to think. I mean, this feels.
Look what happened to Candace. Look what happened to Candace Owens. I mean, she dared. From the facts do not care about your feelings, dude. She dared to criticize a foreign country. Then she dared to push back against two different rabbis, and she was fired from her job, placed under a gag order when she threatened Ben Shapiro when she challenged him to debate. His response was to slap a gag order on her. It's crap like that. That's the problem. And because what that means is that if you cannot defend your position, if you have to start resorting to legal or financial means to silence your opposition, then you have people like me. I like to think I'm relatively rational, for a creationist. I start wondering, well, if I'm not allowed to criticize this certain group of people, then maybe they really are running things. I mean, who knows? I can see it.
Well, I don't think Jews are running things, but I think certainly pro-Israel people are running more than they ought to be running, and
100%
telling the government what to do. And what's crazy is they're not even all Jewish, right? I mean, a lot of them are not Jewish. And so this Project Esther thing, for example, the majority of the people behind it are not even Jewish. I mean, this is kind of like, I had a friend of mine, he's in a car accident. He's out in the street, fighting with this woman, not physically, yelling at each other. And this other dude walks in and starts to get involved. I'm like, this is like the other dude. He's like the non-Jews getting involved. What's your deal? Like, leave this alone. This is not your business, really. So I'm all right. Well, I think, I mean, I wanted to ask you another thing too about the Luigi aspect of this, right? I mean, this is a 30-year-old suspect. I mean, there's some you can't help but think of Luigi and self-radicalization, if that's in fact what happened here. I mean, look, this is one of those things where probably this guy did it, right? Because he was caught on the scene. We have to say allegedly for the, for legal reasons, but
sure.
You and I know what probably happened here. I think we're going to see more of this sort of thing, right? I mean, it's just going on, and it's sad. It's really, and it's also sad for Mr. Rodriguez because his life is effectively over now.
Sure.
And he's, off to prison, probably never going to see the light of day for many, many years, if ever. And it's tragic. And I think it's because there's, this kind of thing happens when people feel desperate, when protests don't work, letters to the editor don't work. Israel even has an arrest warrant against its sitting prime minister. It's been formally accused in international court of genocide. And nothing seems to be able to stop them. I mean, Kamala Harris lost because she was true pro-Israel. That's part of it, not the only thing.
That's a huge part of it. And I mean, one of the things, I was watching the video. The police were very gentle with this guy. And like he walked him, I guess he supposedly showed him where the gun was. And then he just shouted, free, free Palestine, as people were just looking on like a made for TV moment. To me, that's just really, really bizarre. I don't know how it is there in New York City, but where I grew up, just outside of Pensacola, if the cops caught somebody who was a murderer, I mean, he was not looking at the press doing a photo op, chanting political slogans. He was getting tuned up and getting thrown into a car. So something about this does not pass a smell test with me. I don't know if he's a patsy. I don't know what's going on. It's just, and again, this is one of those things that you're talking about, asking questions. What is real anymore? It's getting harder and harder and harder to tell. Just what exactly is it that's going on? Who is this guy? I mean, if he's Ted, if I was out just walking up and down in front of this museum for however long this dude was, do you think that maybe cops or guards would have come up and say, "Hey, excuse me, sir. Hey there, Whitey. What are you doing?"
Maybe not. Right. I mean, in New York City, for example.
So I don't know, because I've never lived in a big city.
Have you ever been to Washington?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, look, Washington is like, when you walk around, it's one of the things that, I mean, I've been there more times than I know. I couldn't count, but I'll tell you, one of the things you notice is you walk everywhere you go, you're like, oh, wow, there's the National Education Association. Oh, wow, there's the Department of the Treasury. Oh, wow, there's USAID. I mean, every block has like something you've heard of that's a major institution. Oh, there's the Teamsters Union. There's the national headquarters of the mine workers or whatever. They're all there. And so it's not really unusual in a city like that with all these institutions everywhere, with events and these like kind of dinners, like fundraisers that are going on, to have high profile stuff. If you were locking down the block every time something was going on, no one would be able to walk around. And then there's always people people are waiting, they're pacing, they're on the phone, they're waiting for a friend, they're going to dinner. I mean, I think if you're doing security in a city like that, in a situation like that, you can't just stop everyone. It's just kind of not practical. So, gotcha. I mean, hopefully we'll get some more. I mean, I always like to say this after situations like this. Oh, hopefully we'll get some answers. We tend to never get answers, right? I mean, yeah. But we'll see. I think we should move on to the big, beautiful bill, which I bet you have thoughts, Robby. The Republican-controlled House of Representatives narrowly passed that tax and spending bill that is supposedly the bulk of Trump's policy agenda. That happened yesterday, early today, late last night. Trillions of dollars in new debt will be the result if it passes as is. This bill would fulfill a lot of his campaign promises, new tax breaks on tips and car loans, and boosting more spending on the military, because Lord knows you need that, and border enforcement. It'll add about $3.8 trillion to the current $36.2 trillion in national debt over the next budget. That, according to the calculation by the Congressional Budget Office, which calculates these things. Trump's bill passed 215 to 214 just by one vote, very narrow, with all Democrats and 2 Republicans voting no. A 3rd Republican voted present. The package now has to go to the Senate and pass there before Trump can sign it into law. That vote came after a marathon effort that kept Speaker Johnson and other lawmakers debating the bill up through 2 consecutive nights. The law is the bill, which is 1,000 pages long, would extend those tax cuts that Trump passed in 2017 and are due to expire. It would cancel green energy initiatives passed by Biden. It would make it harder to get health and food programs if you're a poor person. You would make it much harder to get Medicaid as well. It would also put some money into cracking down on illegal immigration, adding thousands and thousands of border guards, and creating the capacity to deport up to 1 million people every year. And now it goes on to the Senate. Now, Democrats could stop this in the Senate. There's many ways that they could do do this. I'm curious to see what they're going to do, if anything. But this bill, the tax cuts that are extended, I'm very much against. But I'm curious what you have to say here. I mean, I'm sure you're not liking the deficits.
No, I think it's fiscal suicide, because I was listening. My work day, for people who don't know, like I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start get ready for my day job, and so I was listening to Thomas Massey, and he was just like,
one of the
nothing.
votes.
Yeah, he's just like, nothing ever good comes out of a bunch of congressmen getting together after midnight. So this is stupid. And then he pointed out that doing his own math, and the guy's smart as hell. He was just like, this is not going to be a $10 trillion deficit. This is going to be closer to a $30 deficit over 10 years. This is just completely insane. And I agree with him. And it just goes to show why Trump hates the man so much. It's because it's that whole split. How is it that mortgaging the future of your kids to pay for the now, while you're lowering tax cuts on rich people and corporations, how is that America first? How does that benefit anybody except for the donor class? The answer is it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Ted, I would love to see the populist right and populist left actually work together to kill this thing, but I don't know if they can. I don't know if they will. And
they haven't worked together on anything so far. So
yeah, and it's stupid, because they should be. I mean, if you and me can work together on a lot of different things, then why the hell can't they? I mean,
they could.
I don't get it. Of course they could.
Yeah.
It's just, are they scared of being primaried? Are they scared of?
They don't like each other, and it's like, you're smelly. You have cooties.
You don't have to like each other. You don't have to like each other to work together.
Right. No, I agree. And in fact, if you hung out together, you might like each other. But that's a whole different thing. That's like sort of how arranged marriage works. It does work in much of the world, right? If you just 2 people come at it with a good attitude, they can get along and be married and fall in love. Sure. It can be good. I guess I'm skeptical that this is going to make it through the Senate.
I hope it doesn't.
Now, I'm guessing that both the Democrats will go along with the renewal of the tax cuts, just for the simple reason that no one ever wants to be perceived as said, like, as having increased taxes. Donald Trump cut taxes. Democrats increase taxes. Vote Republican 2026.
What difference does it make if it creates more? If it creates more inflation, what difference does it make? I mean, seriously, what the hell difference does it make?
So my problem is, of course, first and foremost, the military spending. The last thing we should be doing, I mean, you read my book. I mean, we should cut military spending by 95%. We shouldn't be increasing it at all. It's 99%. It's 95% totally wasted. We currently are spending over $1 trillion a year on the military. Brazil has the same borders that we do, and they only spend $20 billion a year because they don't have military bases all over the world. They're not invading anyone. They don't fight proxy wars against anyone. To defend Brazil, which by the way is a lot harder to defend than to defend the United States, they have borders with countries that they don't get along with. We don't have that. So, I mean, I guess we will soon, the way we've been treating Canada. But generally speaking, up until now, it's been easy. So, yeah, the military spending, I think, thing is atrocious. Also, I think work requirements for Medicaid were always problematic. But you're talking about a time when it's very hard to find work. So you're telling people who are sick, go out and try to find a job that you can't find. Otherwise, you can't see a doctor. I mean, sorry. I mean, a lot of sick people shouldn't be working at all. And, that's why they're called sick days. And it's like, if you are, the whole thing just seems, it's kind of sick. It seems a little bit like old-fashioned country club republicanism.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I know it's disgusting. I know that if I was in Congress, I would have voted against it. And I'm probably one of the farthest to the right people that and I would tell Trump to stick in his pipe and smoke it, because this does not help anybody except for his donors. This helps no one. It's a disaster.
I'm not against deficit spending if it's for a good reason. Like, let's say it was like deficit spending for high-speed rail, deficit spending to get homeless people off the street, deficit spending to put for a jobs retraining program for people in flyover country whose factories have closed down and need to pivot to a new occupation. I'll do some deficit spending for that stuff.
That makes sense, because that's an investment. That's not waste. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's how
I actually get something out of it.
Yeah, I mean deficit spending. I would do deficit spending for Medicare for all. I mean, because people get sick, and not to mention that's a form of investment too, because you're increasing GDP when you have fewer people ill out from work, starting new businesses and so on. So yeah, all right. Well, that's where we're at with that. We'll continue to follow this story.
Quick question for you, Ted.
Please.
Why is it that people in Congress are allowed to vote present? Why don't you have to actually make a binary choice, yes or no?
Or you could, or you don't even have to be present. You could
just skip.
You could skip. You could just be out. You don't have to cast a vote. I think that the purpose is that you're acknowledging to your constituents that you were willing to do your job,
but you didn't, by definition.
Well, I mean, aren't there policies that you would not vote, that you would kind of like don't like one or the other? I mean, I'm sure when you're thinking about voting for, let's say you were voting hundreds of times a year on different legislation, there's some things where you're like, I don't like either side here. So you can vote present, but mainly it's just a way of, it's sort of a quiet protest vote. I think it's kind of a simp move, but
yeah,
like I agree with you. But
I mean, make a choice. I mean, that's all just pick one.
But it's the kind of thing that it does go back a long time. So
if Dianne Feinstein her age can help her push the right button before she dies, then you should be able to do the same thing on your own power. Just saying.
And speaking of which, I've been continuing to read the Jake Tapper book. Holy shit, there's so much more in there. It's just so like it's relentless. It's like a tsunami. You just can't deny all the stuff about Biden's senility. Anyway, a report's coming out today from RFK Jr. He's the new, of course, Secretary of Health and Human Services, assessing the causes of chronic disease in kids. And it's going to sort of determine what's going to happen in terms of farm and food regulations. So GOP lawmakers who represent big ag and food manufacturing districts have asked RFK to take it easy on them and not regulate them. But they're still worried. So big farm and big ag are worried that they're going to end up blaming pesticides and food dyes as causes of childhood diseases, and that RFK could propose laws that could reduce their profits and cut cost jobs. Even if RFK steers clear of any regulatory proposals in that report, and we have no idea whether he will or not, they're afraid that it could also, his report could dampen demand for their products. We have 88,000 farms in Missouri. And so my goal is to make sure that we feed Missouri and that we feed the world, and that we make sure that our producers have the tools they need to have the most effective crops, the healthiest crops, said Representative Mark Alford, Republican, from an area near Kansas City. At a Senate hearing, Kennedy told Mississippi Republican Cindy Hyde-Smith that farmers have nothing to worry about. He also said the same thing last week at a House hearing where Andy Harris, whose Eastern Shore, that's I believe Maryland, constituents use pesticide to protect their corn, soybeans, and wheat. We cannot make America healthy again without the partnership of the American farmers. We cannot be putting them out of business, Kennedy assured Harris. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the report. I'm pretty sure that food additives and dyes do cause all sorts of diseases and illnesses. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's true, not just for kids, but for adults as well. I would like to see those reduced or eliminated, ideally.
No, same here. I mean, I live in farm country. I mean, I would love to see it all go away. I don't understand how poisoning your customers is a good business plan. I don't understand it, but maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand it.
Well, so part of it is marketing, right? Like, so for example, tomatoes, the prettier they are, the worse they taste, right? So like the ones that are perfectly shaped, like in the, if you think about the platonic ideal of the tomato, it tastes like cardboard. But like a nasty, if you think about like a great, amazing tomato you plucked off your vine in your backyard, now that's a yummy tomato, but it probably didn't look so good. So part of it is just like selling stuff that looks good, but it's also, I think it's sort of a death race. If you had the federal government step in and say, no one can breed tomatoes to do that, then there would be no pressure on marketers to make pretty tomatoes. They wouldn't have to. And so that's where government regulation can really prove helpful. I'm also not sympathetic to the idea, this is the way we've always done things, and therefore this is the way we always have to do them. You know, here in New York City, when former Mayor Michael Bloomberg passed the no smoking in bars and restaurants law, to hear the Restaurateurs Association tell it, no one in New York City was ever going to go out again, and nightlife was going to be dead because everyone wants to be around smoking, even if they don't smoke themselves, because smoking is what you think of when you think of nightlife, anywhere where booze is served. Okay, well, that turned out not to be true. As soon as the law passed, more people went out because there were a lot of non-smokers who didn't go out and didn't appreciate the secondhand smoke. I wouldn't be at all surprised if these rules are strong and effective, that this would actually increase sales for these farms, and that in the long run they'll end up doing better than they are now.
Well, I mean, no one wants to eat poison. I mean, ultimately, I mean that is a thing. If you want to live a happy and healthy and productive life, kind of like how Trump is talking about getting people, I guess Republicans are trying to get people off of Medicaid. A good way to do that is stop poisoning them. So, I mean, these are things that you're able to do. And for the life of me, Ted, I cannot understand why it costs more to go get a salad than it does to get a bag of chips and a Coke. I mean, why is that? It makes no sense to me.
Well, there's economies of scale, right? Like a bag of chips and a Coke are loaded with preservatives. They're vacuum packed. They can keep, after a zombie apocalypse, they're going to be edible thousands of years from now. Whereas like a fresh salad, has a expiration date of basically tomorrow. So it's like, I think storage, distribution, those things are challenging. I mean, you think about oranges come from, say, Florida to New York, up I-95. Well, they can't pick them when they're ripe, right? They have to pick them before they're ripe and let them sort of ripen in the truck. But, and then I worked in a grocery store, I unloaded the trucks. It takes a while, right? I mean, it's weeks in many cases between like the time something was alive and the time that you're eating it. So
yeah, for sure.
They pump it full of shit.
I mean, one of the things I would love to see, and this can be an unpopular opinion, but I think we should stop importing all this food from around the world and just have seasonal food like they used to do back in the old days. I mean, I think that having the accessibility to all the food that we have now with refrigeration and the chemicals, I think that does more harm than good.
I agree. No, I mean, I think I have some sympathy for or some interest in importing foods that, let's say, like, for example, you go to the Asian market and they have star fruit. Well, and let's say you're Chinese American and you be loving your star fruit. Well, you can't get those here. So, I mean, I could see importing stuff like that.
What the hell is a star fruit?
It's a fruit that's in the shape of a star, and it's
never heard of it.
There's a lot of weird fruits from overseas. Anyway, the point is, but I mean, and it's hard to make, for example, enough bananas in the United States, right? But
sure.
But basically, there's a lot of shit we should, and I'd go outside of food. I think generally speaking, if American producers can produce a product, there's no reason to import it at all, and it should just not be. I mean, it's bad for the environment. It's bad for American producers. It's like why would you encourage competition with your own people?
You sound more America first right now than Trump does. I was going to throw it out.
I am more America first than Donald Trump is.
And I think that's what you just now said. That's what the people on the left and the right need to understand and start to freaking listen and put away the tribalism. These people in DC are not your friends. They regulate the food that's making you sick, that's sending you to the hospital, that's creating another customer for the hospitals, all for profit. We are nothing but cattle. We are cattle. And people need to wake the hell up to it.
I mean, I really, truly, it's harsh. The problem is it's also true.
It is.
Yeah. All right. So let's I'm really looking forward to this next insane topic. Here we go.
I like insane topics.
Mouth taping is a viral trend where people tape their lips shut before they go to sleep at night to encourage breathing from their nose instead of mouth breathing. People who are into this say it improves your sleep, reduces your snoring. You get fresher morning breath. I find that hard to believe. Improved oral health and even a more defined jawline. Gwyneth Paltrow, Ashley Graham, and Jimmy Fallon are a few of the celebs who have hopped onto this trend. And health and wellness influencers like Corey Rodriguez and James June have racked up millions of views touting this tactic. I've been doing this now for a couple of months after seeing this, and it's life-changing. Best sleep of my life, commented as one social media user. Sleep so much better. Lessened snoring, no dry mouth, chimed in another. But some people say not so fast. Skeptics are raising concerns about risks like, I would suffocate, always a concern. I'd probably die halfway through the night. Doctors say that might be true. The general concept of mouth taping from a scientific and biological perspective doesn't make a lot of sense. That, according to Dr. Brian Rottenberg, the Canadian ENT surgeon, told the New York Post. Snoring is often linked to obstructive sleep apnea that affects about 30 million Americans. It causes...
That is a great name, by the way, for an ENT doc.
Rottenberg?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say that obstructive sleep apnea is the name of your new heavy metal band. But anyway, hello, New York. Well, obstructive sleep apnea. It causes the upper airways to collapse or to narrow and constrict, and it interrupts your breathing at night. In 10 studies involving 213 people, Rottenberg and his colleagues found out that only 2 studies actually find that mouth taping might slightly help some people with mild apnea. The other 8 studies show no benefit whatsoever. Even worse, 4 of the studies actually say you might choke to death, especially if your apnea is caused by nasal blockages. So sleep apnea causes the upper airways to collapse, forcing some people to breathe through their mouths at night. But if your nose is blocked and you tape your mouth shut, there's nothing left to breathe through at that point, Rottenberg warned, except for your ass, I suppose. That's where the risk comes in. Rottenberg doesn't believe mouth tapping would be fatal if you blocked your nasal passages, since your body would probably wake you up before things went too far. However, he has had some patients who struggled with mouth taping, and in some cases, it actually made their apnea worse. You can imagine if the trend was to continue and you don't take the mouth tape off, at that point, there would be a very real risk of something terrible happening, said Rottenberg.
Yeah.
I vote. Look, I snore like a motherfucker. And I am not going to tape my mouth shut at night because I get my nose gets all completely constricted. I mean, I have allergies. My right nostril, for some reason, is always the one that gets gunked up with boogers. I'm not doing that. I'm not taping my mouth shut. I want all my breathing options available until I die.
No, use a neti pot. Honestly, use a neti pot. That'll help. Also,
taking a Zyrtec before you go to sleep or something like that on really bad nights, that helps too. Also, if you want to avoid drooling and stuff at night, ironically, you need to drink more water, which is really interesting.
My wife drools. I mean, it's
kind of drink more water. It's kind
of like a Labrador. No, she's kind of like a Labrador Retriever. Now, granted, the coloring matches.
I drool a lot too.
I mean, just it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, it's so funny. It reminds me of when I was 18. The floor counselor in my dorm, he was Korean, and he had this insanely beautiful Korean girlfriend, and we were all like, "Teach us, master, your ways, so we can find out how to be like you." And he was like, "Guys, don't mystify ladies. Once you see when they forget to flush the toilet or something, they're just like us." That's what the snoring and the drooling reminds me of.
There is a lot of truth to that. My wife and I, we'll be married 19 years this year. And all I can say is that, one, I'm married up. Second, there's really not that much difference. No, she's love her to death, but she can blow up a toilet. I'm just saying. Just put that out there.
Double flusher?
Sometimes, depending on what's going on.
Or it's like double flusher with smear. That's the real question. I make her yay or nay. I'm anti-mouth. I think what's the worst that can happen if you don't tape your mouth? You snore loudly. So what?
Yeah. My wife sounds like a freight train when she sleeps. I mean, she does. She snores. And so I'll do is, if she gets too loud, I'll just elbow her and I just put a pillow up under her back. So, okay, you got to kind of prop up on the side just a little bit. So I think I'm anti-taping, but pro pillow wedgie.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, angle is everything. I would totally agree with that. And all right, last but not least today, and we've got to close out, sea level rise will become unmanageable once global warming achieves 1.5 degrees Celsius above the beginning of industrialization, and that will lead to catastrophic inland migration. Migration, your favorite thing, Robby. Yay. The scientists behind a new study are saying this scenario will unfold even if the average level of heating is maintained at 1.2 Celsius. The loss of ice from the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets has quadrupled since the 90s due to climate change, and it's now the number one cause of sea level increase. The international target is 1.5 degrees Celsius, but we're not going to achieve that. No way, no how. But the new study finds that even if somehow you were able to keep it at 1.5 over, pre-industrialization, like 1750, sea levels would be rising about a centimeter a year by the end of the century. That's faster than the speed at which any countries can build dikes and other coastal defenses. Currently, we're on track, actually, not for 1.5 or 1.2, but for 2.5 to 2.9 degrees Celsius of global heating. This is certainly beyond the tipping point to completely collapse the Greenland and West Antarctic ice sheets. Those ice sheets will lead to a 12-meter increase in sea level rise. So to put that into perspective, that's 36 feet. And if you're walking along the shoreline in, say, Lower Manhattan or San Francisco or, Miami Beach, you can easily imagine. But I think people don't really get 36 feet of water. It doesn't go 36 feet inland. It goes thousands of feet inland, depending on what the topography looks like. Today, about 230. Sorry,
At
go ahead.
least New Orleans would be gone. So there is that is a plus.
I love New Orleans. I totally disagree with that. Until this all, interestingly, I heard that when New Orleans was originally laid out, the French asked local indigenous people to show them the highest level of possible flooding ever historically, and the locals knew, and they were like, okay, that'll be the French Quarter. So they drew the borders around the old city. So they just were like, we'll never be flooded, and so. And it's true. Even during Hurricane Katrina, French Quarter didn't get flooded. It's the
sprawl.
Yeah, it's the sprawl, and building in places like the lower Ninth Ward, which are really like too low. There just shouldn't be anything there. Anyway, about 230 million people, about a quarter of a billion people, live within just 1 meter above current sea level. 1 billion people live within 10 meters above sea level. That's 1 out of 8 people on Earth. Even just a 20 centimeter increase in sea level, that's about 8 inches, by the year 2050, would lead to global food damages of about $1 trillion a year for the world's 136 biggest cities along coasts, and huge impacts on people's lives and livelihoods. However, the scientists say that every fraction of a degree of global warming that's avoided would still help or mitigate it, because it would slow the rate of the increase, give us more time to prepare and save lives and reduce suffering. Sea level rise is the biggest long-term impact of the climate crisis. Research shows that it's happening a lot faster than we previously expected. The 1.5 limit was viewed as a way to avoid the worst consequences, but now there's no way we're going to get there. And this new research shows that actually it was more like 1 or 1.2. The safe limit, they say, was probably under 1 degree Celsius. So that's gone, daddy, gone. We that's in the rearview mirror. We're already fucked. Sea level rise of between 1 to 2 meters is now inevitable, the scientists say. In the UK, just 1 meter of sea level rise would see part of the Fens and Humberside drop below sea level. I mean, obviously things like this have happened in the past.
Sure.
Like, for example, we know the parts of the Jamestown colony where, the ruins of it have been found underwater, so we've had sea level rises, but this is happening. This is man-made, and it's happening super, super fast. I I kind of think, like, don't bother to recycle, because it's like, buy an SUV. It kind of doesn't matter anymore. We probably should have listened back in the 1960s and 1970s when environmentalists were raising the alarm. And now we should just be involved in mitigation at this point, building walls, moving populations, planning new cities. Like New York Harbor needs a seawall like they would have in Holland to protect from super floods. I mean, this is just the new reality. And I think at this point, it's naive to say, oh, we can make it better. Like, no, Al Gore, you can't. I mean, I just think we're just screwed.
Oh, I have mixed feelings about this, because one, if you look at the history, if you look at that ruins, like, for example, the Herculaneum, the ruins, of the docks, it's like 3 miles inland now. So obviously the sea was higher back in Roman times than it is now, because, well, it was. Look where the docks are. So I do think that climate change happens. I mean, the little ice age is obviously a thing.
That happened.
I mean, whenever Krakatoa first blew up, I mean, there's evidence that caused the plague of Justinian. I mean, so, I mean, it happens. I don't know how much of it is man-made. I do want us to reduce pollution. I want to live in a clean place. I want to live in a clean world. But as far as climate change happens, I think that people kind of forget that this has all happened before. It's going to happen again. And I just don't know how much power it is that humans have over it. I mean, we can destroy ourselves, but we can't destroy the planet.
No. That's my thing. I mean, I guess that's like really where I'm at when it comes to arguing with conservatives who are like denying climate change. I'm like, all right, let's just say that climate change is not caused by humans. Who cares? But I mean, where's the harm in saying we need cleaner water, cleaner air, cleaner food? Like, how could that be bad? And even if it costs a little money to achieve, so I mean, we waste money on far worse things.
No, believe it or not, the biggest conservationists and environmentalists are your hunters and your fishermen, because they're actually out in nature. They see it, they live it. It's their passion, and
Yeah.
most of them are overwhelmingly conservative for the most part.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so that's.
But they're not really on board with the climate change stuff, right?
Well, I think just because of the way that's been packaged, right? It's because if you try to say that this is how it seems to be, at least from the way that I look at it, is that we're taught that climate is this thing that it's always been this way, and that it can be controlled, and that we are the masters of our own fate, and we're able to, that we can actually control this huge complex system that's called Earth. I call bullshit on that because, well, I mean, look at the examples I just gave. I mean, if you have a dock that's 3 miles inland from where it used to be, then obviously the sea has retreated. The Ice Age was a thing that happened in Europe. The ice sheet grew exponentially. It's one of the things that kicked off the Vikings. It's because though Scandinavia was now an ice sheet, it's not anymore.
They couldn't farm even if they wanted to.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think climate change happens, but I think it happens in cycles. I think that if you look at the geological record, that's obviously true. And I think that's where conservatives and liberals, for lack of a better word, I think that's kind of where we part company. Is that the liberals seem to think that if you give the government more power to be able to regulate and control things, then we can actually control the earth. And then the conservatives look at this, it's like, you're insane. You don't even know what the hell a woman is. You can't control nothing. And I think that's the party of science. When you start denying the absolute things like gender, women, if you start telling them that men can get pregnant, but then say you can control the weather, no, we're at the part company there. That's not going to work.
Yeah,
but
I think that messaging comes from a place where they think that voters are so stupid that they won't understand anything but the most simplistic message, right?
Of course.
Like trans women are women too, like just abortion, like fetuses aren't alive, therefore we have to support abortion rights. And, it's simplistic, and everyone kind of like, but the truth is voters might be in a hurry, but they're not stupid, and they kind of they sense that they're like, come on, you're radically simplifying this. I know what you're saying isn't really quite true. Right. Instead of just being again, but I don't know. It is kind of simple to say, don't you want to drink clean water? Don't you want to eat clean food? And leave it at that, right? Like, don't put crap into the air.
But it's like what you said yesterday when you were talking about the Democrats, how they blew up their own brand. Mm-hmm. If you're the party of science, fine. Then you can make that argument. Say, no, our food supply sucks. We're poisoning the water supply. We're doing all these things. That is a factual statement. That's where you hang your hat. But when you start trying to wrap your science in with ideology and you start saying that women can get prostate cancer, that's when you start losing people who are able to actually think and have rational thoughts, because you cannot be the party of science while denying the absolute scientific fact of the most basic things that you learn in elementary school. So, I mean, that's the problem. And that's why so many people on my side of the aisle think the global warming is just complete bupkis. It's because the Democrats and the left at large have completely wrecked they've wrecked their credibility.
Well, look, the fact is that this also kind of began with Ronald Reagan. I mean, Republicans never thought that climate change wasn't real or caused by human beings until Reagan started he was a troll, right? That's the thing is, Trump is, the brand of Republicans is trolling and owning the libs. That's the brand. And they don't, as long as you don't break your brand, you're okay, as long as the brand is appealing. And so far the brand is appealing. Democrats, of course, as I read about the lies about Biden, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Anyway, we
have an ad if you want me to read it.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Yeah, hold on just one second here, boys and girls.
And then we'll disappear into the ether until tomorrow.
So if you tried 1775 coffee, now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the smooth, medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focused, no crash. The single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting the gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. My mother-in-law is coming here in June, by the way, so pray for me. A black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble. Wonder if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe.
Two bits of breaking news before we go, Robbie. The U.S. Supreme Court has deadlocked 4-4 with Amy Coney Barrett abstaining, so that saying that state funding is not allowed for religious charter schools. That was something that was much watched. Also, a federal judge has issued an injunction against the Trump administration, prohibiting them from shutting down the U.S. Department of Education or firing 1,300 Education Department employees who have previously already been doged. So we'll follow all that.
Trump just needs to ignore that guy. Screw him. Just ignore him.
Yeah, well, that's true. He doesn't have the authority. No. All right, so please subscribe. Substitute. Please subscribe. Substitute. I want to sing the Who song. Please subscribe to the TMI Show here on Rumble and as well as on YouTube. Please become a paid subscriber. It's $5 a month, so we can keep doing this. And if you like what you see and find value in what we're doing, please help us continue. We're fully independent. We rely on you, so smash that button. We really appreciate it. Thanks to Robby, a.k.a. Putinbot Gaming, on Twitter and elsewhere for supporting us, producing the show, moderating the chat, and filling in for Manila today. And that's going to do it here on the TMI Show for Thursday, May 22nd. Much appreciated. I'm going to see if I can find the little thing. Okay, bye, everyone. Ciao.
Bye, y'all.